Stock Exchange, and now we are ready to move on to our final discussion for today. A conducive economy is a key success factor for any business organization, and we hope to take this opportunity to have a look at how the current situation and how the economy is progressing at the moment. And we have with us Mr. Siddharth Kalyanuratne from NDB Securities joining us today. We warmly welcome you on board.
A pleasure to be here.
Let's start the conversation from the current position of Sri Lanka's economy. What are the key positive factors you see?
Well, I see three key strengths for the country. Firstly, I would like to talk of the close proximity that we have to India, where we are about 20 miles from the world's fastest growing large economy, which is expected to grow at around 7 to 8% over the next 3 to 5 years. So I feel that this is a huge opportunity that Sri Lanka has in front of us. And the second point that I would like to highlight is our location in the traditional maritime Silk Road, where we are placed right in the middle, connecting the east and the west. Why this road is important at this juncture is because if you look at China, they have embarked on a very aggressive trade revitalization campaign called One Belt, One Road. So in this campaign, I believe this traditional Silk Road will stand to benefit. Why this is so important for Sri Lanka is if you look at the global trade, more than 70% of the oil trade and about 50% of the global container traffic pass through the Indian Ocean close to Sri Lanka every year. So this is a huge trade opportunity that we have in front of us. Therefore, I feel that we need to monetize this opportunity. If we can do so, if we can tap into a portion of this trade, I believe that will change our economic landscape almost overnight. The third point, the third positive that I see for the economy is from an economic stability point of view. If you look at the fiscal consolidation program, to which the government has shown quite remarkable commitment, I see that as a big positive for the country. We are looking at reducing the fiscal deficit to around 3.2% of GDP by 2020 from the mid-single digit levels. Reducing the debt burden to around 60%, that's a target, by 2020 as a percentage of GDP from the current 76% levels. Having a stable inflation rate of around 4 to 6% through 2020. And also changing the regressive tax regime, where the direct to indirect tax composition is around 16 to 84. So I'll be the first to admit that some of these targets are fairly ambitious. However, identifying that the fiscal consolidation at the heart of the government's economic program is a very big positive. So those three are the main positives that I see for the economy.
Okay. What are the core sectors driving economic growth?
Well, if you look at the core of the economy, it will always be the SMEs, small, medium enterprises. If you look at the GDP, it accounts to about 52% of the GDP. If you look at the employment base, that counts to about 35% of the employment base. So SME sector will always be at the heart of the economy in Sri Lanka. But if you really look at the sectorial contributions, I would say services sector will continue to dominate Sri Lanka's GDP growth. Currently, services sector contribution is around 56%. And if you go back even as far back as 1960s, it used to be the dominant force. Services sector used to contribute to around 37-38% even back then. Not 37%, 46-47%. So services has always been the key force. What has changed over the last 5 to 6 decades was the contribution of the agriculture sector. Around 1960s, agriculture sector contribution was around 36-37 levels. Today it has dropped to around 7-8%, which is a drastic drop. Why this drop is significant? If you look at the factor markets such as labor and land, if you look at the land bank, about 22-23% of the land bank is in agriculture sector. If you look at the employment base, about 28-29% is in agriculture sector. So we are heavily invested when it comes to resources in the agriculture sector, yet the contribution of the sector is just 8%. So therefore I feel that agriculture sector is something that we have to work on. as an economy and as a country, especially on the diversification, yields, etc. However, I feel that going forward, services sector will continue to dominate, whilst we will see improvement in the industrial sector as well.
Okay, if you talk about the fiscal deficit of the country, several measures at the moment are being taken to address this fiscal deficit. How are we on right track? What are the fiscal challenges we see?
Well, I would say we are on the right track. That's why I mentioned that as the third key strength I see for the economy. Why I'm saying that is, of course, we have to understand that we are going through a fiscal stabilization program. Therefore, fiscal stability and economic growth might not come together. So there we may have to be a little patient. But if you look at the fiscal consolidation or the fiscal deficit over the last 6 to 7 years, if you go back to around, let's say, 2009, just after the war, our fiscal deficit was about 10% of GDP. Fast forward by 6-7 years, we have managed to halve that. We are at mid-single digit level. So on a fiscal deficit point of view, we have done fairly well. But having said that, it's important that you really analyze the underlying elements, mainly the revenue and the expense. So I would like to take both separately. If I may take the revenue side, if you look at revenue as a percentage of GDP in Sri Lanka and compare that over the last 15 years, if you go back to 2000, Sri Lanka's revenue as a percentage of GDP was 17%. Today it has dropped to 14%. That's before seeing a low of 11% in 2014. So you can see there is a huge revenue mobilization challenge in front of us. On top of that, on the revenue side, we have the regressive tax regime that I mentioned earlier, where the direct to indirect tax composition is not on a correct footing. It's 16 to 84. Definitely direct tax contribution has to increase. If you look at developed countries, the direct tax contribution is more than 50%. So therefore, we have to work on the tax structure as well. If I may look at the expense side, overall expense as a percentage of GDP, there are no major complaints. It's around 20%. That's where most of the countries in this part of the world are. However, if you look at the underlying elements, if you look at the composition of this expense bill, then there are concerns. If you look at the expense bill, 33% of the expense bill goes towards wages and salaries of the government employees. That is just 15% of the total employment base. So there is an imbalance in that sense. On top of that, if you look at the debt burden, interest repayments, that comes to about 31% of the total expense bill, 31-32%. So 2/3 of the expense bill goes towards just two items, wages and salaries and interest payments. So definitely the composition is not on a correct balance. So that's a concern that I have on that end. So therefore, fiscal deficit reduction alone is not enough. Of course, we are on the right track. That has to be said. So fiscal stabilization is a must. However, we have to look at the underlying elements that are contributing towards that fiscal consolidation program, and we have to look at a workable and a sustainable solution for this. So I believe we are on the right track, but we have a lot to do.
All right. When we talk about the external sector, foreign direct investments have become a hot topic. How crucial are these FDIs for Sri Lanka?
Well, FDIs are extremely crucial. If you look at the past, why it has been a hot topic is because if you look at the FDI inflows as a percentage of GDP, we have never been able to breach the 2% mark ever in our history. So it has always been a huge challenge for Sri Lanka. I can think of two reasons why that has been the case for Sri Lanka. One is the small domestic market. We just have a 20 million population, therefore I don't think that's an incentive enough for a large FDI player to come and establish in Sri Lanka or invest in Sri Lanka. And that leads to the second point, where the lack of integration of the local industries into the global value chain. So that also doesn't really support an FDI player to come to Sri Lanka. So, however, having said that, there are certain positives that I see that are happening in the country. For example, the preferential trade agreement discussions that are in place with countries like China, India, Pakistan, Singapore. Those are positives, and also the GSP plus discussions. So I believe that we need those discussions to materialize and with a positive outcome, because that will basically convert this 20 million domestic market into a market of about 3 billion people. So that will basically change the landscape of the FDIs in this country. So I believe FDIs are essential, FDIs are a must, and also we need to integrate with the global value chains. That's also a key factor that we have to look at. Why I'm saying that is I can't think of many industries in Sri Lanka that has done that, except for probably apparel, certain IT companies, certain financial services companies. Apart from those, I can't think of many industries that have got the proper global value chain integration. So that can come through FDIs. So therefore FDIs are important. However, we will have to work towards that. Not just the FTAs, we have to look at the infrastructure of this country as well and improve those. Connectivity will become crucial in that sense. But it will be a challenge for us going forward.
What is your opinion about the current BOP status?
Well, I would like to take a step back before answering your question. Probably by doing so, I might be able to answer it indirectly. If I take a step back and look at the last 6-7 years, there were two BOP crisis situations, balance of payment crisis situations in Sri Lanka. One in 2011-12, and the other in 2015-16. And on both the occasions, the main reasons were the pressure on the current account and the indiscipline in the fiscal account. So what basically happens is, at the ground level, due to the fiscal indiscipline, due to the populist politics, if I may say, it kind of creates an artificial demand in the system, which leads to inflation. And what this inflation will do is, it will create a higher inflation differential between Sri Lanka and our trading partners. So that leads to a lot of pressure on the currency. So we have to make the currency competitive. So in that case, the currency has to depreciate. But that's not an easy decision, because there is a very high import element in our consumption basket. So politically also, that becomes a very difficult decision to make. Therefore, it has always been a concern for us when it comes to inflation, when it comes to the interest rates, when it comes to the exchange rate. We have always been a high inflation, high nominal interest rate, and an overvalued currency nation in this part of the world. But if we get our fiscal consolidation program right, if we can get it in order, then I believe we will be in a position to manage our inflation better, so that we can hopefully move towards a low inflation, low nominal interest rates, and a competitive, not overvalued country. So I believe if we can get that formula right, we will be in a position to manage our balance of payment situation going forward.
Right. Finally, how do you foresee the economic performance of the country in the medium term? A very brief answer.
Yes, I would like just highlight what I just discussed, so that it will formulate into my opinion. So I'm quite positive on the economic growth that we have seen so far, and also on the social development front. Since independence, it has been an excellent social development story that we saw in Sri Lanka, especially compared to the region. But what it has done is, it has given us an aging population way ahead of the curve. So that really puts pressure on the economy through total factor productivity improvement. So we have huge challenges in improving research and development, innovation, technology in this country. On top of that, we have the exports segment that we have to really focus on, improve on. And on top of all that, we have the FDIs to work on. We have to work on our agricultural sector productivity and all that. But above all, as far as I'm concerned, if we are to really activate the animal spirits of the business community of this country, we have to look at the policy direction and political stability. So if we can get all these in place, I believe that we are in a position to move forward to the next phase of growth.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we got to say goodbye now. And we will see you next week, same time on Channel I. Take care and good night.